Welcome to the Real Estate Syndication Show. Whether you are a seasoned investor or building a new real estate business, this is the show for you. Whitney Sewell talks to top experts in the business. Our goal is to help you master real estate syndication. And now your host, Whitney Sewell.
This is your daily real estate syndication show. I'm your host, Whitney Sewell. Today our guest is Bill Allen. Thanks for being on the show, Bill.
Whitney, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited too. Excited to get to know you a little better. Pleasure to have you on the show. And thank you. I want to say firsthand, thank you for your service. I appreciate your service. And for those that don't know, Navy pilot and real estate professional, CEO and owner of Seven Figure Flipping and host of the Seven Figure Flipping podcast, where he leads the top house flipping and wholesaling mentoring groups in the world. Just a few years ago, stuck flipping 1 to 2 houses per year and doing all that work himself. But since then, he's built a systemized business that runs without him. Wholesaling and flipping company Blackjack Real Estate is based out of Nashville, Tennessee, and does upwards of 200 deals a year throughout the Southeast with a staff of 15 people. So I love that, just building systems. I'm a systems guy. I love thinking that way. How can we do this? How can we optimize things? How can we make things happen without me having to do it, right? I love just that mindset. And it sounds like you have just mastered that in this business. And not only in flipping, but you've also, as we were talking about, it's allowed you to do lots of other investing in larger deals and syndications just to create wealth for yourself and your family. But Bill, give us a little more about maybe, who you are, and then let's just jump into some of the systems and just the mindset behind it.
Yeah, before I do, I want to say thank you for your service too. So we know each other through a military connection, right? So I can't get off this without thanking you. It's been my honor to serve, and everybody that's gone before me, it's just amazing. We have a volunteer service. It's awesome. So
yeah, wow.
My background is I was an engineer, so I have an engineering background. I was a test pilot in the Navy, so some of that stuff comes into play in the things that I do, like the systems and operations side, what's working, what's not working. And I just got frustrated with the stock market. I wasn't making enough money, and I have no patience, so I want my net worth to go up. I would constantly track it. And I was buying a couple houses, fixing them up, renting them out when I would move from the military. And sure enough, I started to see my net worth go up and my bank account started to rise, and I could control that. So got into real estate, flipped a house, and my realtor it was a rental actually. My realtor said, you could sell this and make some money, made $43,000 and said that was half of my annual income. Let's do it again. And so that's when I kind of started down that journey. I struggled, like a lot of people do, to try to figure it out on my own. And so I found a mentor, found somebody who was doing what I wanted to do, kind of latched onto that group, that person, and just started taking the systems that other people were using and implement it in my business. So I know somebody who's systemized when I see one, and I've gotten about 15 email updates of to be on time for this podcast. So you're definitely a systems guy. You have back-end systems that are really great. I'm actually going to hack some of that stuff myself. So
cool. Well, I appreciate that. Appreciate that a lot. Yeah, you have to. I mean, you have to think that way. Amazes me. People have been in the business for so many years, and there's some simple things that could make your life so much easier. But I'd love to dive into, when you started thinking that way and some systems, that's helped you to scale the way you have. I know leadership is a big deal, and maybe the military helped you with that, and maybe you could, teach us a little bit there as well. But to what that's looked like to lead your team and to be this successful with a team of 15 and do 200 plus deals a year.
Yeah, I think, like you asked where to start with systems. And I feel like a lot of people think that it's like a software service or something that you need, right? That's the thing that's going to get you where you need to go. It's like, give me the system. I get people all the time come to me and say, what's the system? I want the system. Give it to me. And I don't want to take the air out of your balloon too early, right? But to me, the system is the people, right? And I think you talk about leadership. First, you lead yourself and your family and your community and your church group and everywhere that you go. But then you start casting a vision and figuring out where you want to go. So I think the first step is understanding who you are, what your skill set is, and then building things around you. So there's strengths and weaknesses that we each have. And a lot of people say, okay, work on your weaknesses. I think that's a load of garbage. I think that you need to focus on your strengths, really be strong there, and then figure out how to strengthen, outsource your weaknesses for other people or systems or processes. And so that's what I did. I I was like going to the houses and banging the hammers. I was doing all the things. I was working in the business instead of figuring out what I'm really good at. And what I found out now, what I'm really good at is kind of casting a vision, giving direction, seeing the future, and then helping people get there, like motivate them, to put them in the right seats in the right place, to motivate them and lead them to their great aspects. Like, what do they do really well? And then what I find is, for each of us, when we're working, what kind of systems can we bolt on? Like, I'm talking software, automations, things like that, to reduce the workload of that human being. Because I would like to do like 400 deals with 15 people instead of having to make 40 people, build 40 people in the company to do double what we're doing, right? And so I think back to like my flying time as a pilot. We have something in the airplane called trim. And all it does is make small adjustments in the elevators, the ailerons, the rudder, to reduce the human workload. So when you're flying, you're multitasking. You have to fly, you have to talk, you have to listen to the radio. So when you just start flying for the first time, you are all over the place. You have no idea what's going on. I've seen students shut down. They can't even talk. They definitely can't hear. And all they're doing is motor skills. And so all that trim and all the different features and things that are inside of an airplane are designed to reduce the human workload. And the same thing in our businesses. We can take it to our business if we can reduce human workload to the point where they can focus on the bigger stuff and the other things happen automatically, how many hours do we get back? And then they can either work a little bit more or make more money. So that's kind of how I looked at it.
Taking lots of notes. That's good stuff. Good stuff. So, let's first talk about how you found the right people. And I've struggled with that in numerous hiring processes and trying to find that person, and then obviously train them, or, do I find somebody that has these skills, or do I just find somebody that has the work ethic and then just put the time in to train them? Or I'd love to know just what's been your philosophy of finding those people who've been the rock stars in your 15.
Yeah, so I did the same thing. I struggled as well. So it's not, and what I've learned along the way is that I've got to know who I really work well with. If I'm going to be involved in their day-to-day operations, they're going to be on the team. So I define my core values. That's step one. Everybody gives that lip service. If you come to any of our events, you ever heard me speak on a podcast, you've probably heard, or a webinar or anything, that's all I talk about. Core values, core values, core values. Because if you don't know what they're walking into and who they need to be, then let's take it back a step. Do you ever have somebody in your company who you can't put your finger on it? They're just not the right fit. Like they do an okay job. They're pretty good, but you're like, something's a little off. Like I can't really place it, but something's not right. Like their performance is okay. They seem to be nice. Like but something's off. And it's typically a core value violation of some sort to you. Like you can't, or you go to a party and you meet somebody, you're like, I just really don't like, we don't get along, right? That's where the values come in. And it's not the skill set, because I feel like the skill set can a lot of times be taught. You have to have some sort of background in what you're doing, but the core values can't change. They're ingrained in you since you're like, some people say 5 years old, some people say 12 years old. I really think like in your early ages, you've got these core values that you're moving forward in. So I look for that. I define my core values in my company. We have 5 core values. Every single person in the company can say what they are and define them. And then what we do is we hire based on that. So that's what I look for. We write an ad that's specifically based to that core value and profile. So we also look for certain personalities and certain roles. There are some roles that I need somebody who I don't want them to see the future. I don't want them to see, 10 steps ahead. I want them to be dialed into what they're doing and be very detailed. And then I want somebody who's a really good salesperson who probably isn't that detailed, but they're really good with people and they're really driven and money hungry and things like that. So core values, number 1. Number 2, we define the role, and then we define a personality around that role. Like what does that seat look like and what kind of personality fits it? And then we write the ad. So we write the ad based on the bullet points and adjectives that we want to attract that kind of person. So if I want somebody that doesn't see the future, I don't want to see, are you a forward-thinking visionary that wants to change the world, right? I'm going to say, do you love working from home? Do you like to be focused on one task and not be distracted? Do you like working in groups? If I want somebody who's really social, and we write it to that. So I attract that person. And I also, what it does is it reduces my workload. It detracts the person who it's not. So I don't want somebody to apply if it's not going to be the right fit. And then we have a couple other hoops that they jump through, like they have to apply through our certain link. They have to attach their resume to our personality profile software. And if they don't jump through all those hoops, then we don't even talk to them. I don't talk to anybody until I have a perfect personality profile fit. I have a resume that typically has a background of something that I'm looking for. And then I get on the phone with them, or my COO gets on the phone with them. So that's our structure. And then the interview process is very much diving into who they are, not necessarily their background or history. I mean, if they bounced around from job to job 10 different times every 6 months, that's something we might not even entertain. But we dig into who they are. Like, what do they want to do? What's their future look like? All that stuff before we start talking about the job role.
You mentioned personality fit. How do you test that?
Yeah, so we use a software called Culture Index. It was like my ace in the hole for a long time. That I actually read. If you read Traction by Gino Wickman, they also wrote a book called Rocket Fuel. And in Rocket Fuel, he talks about this thing called Culture Index. And it's a personality profile that has a pretty high fidelity, and it's basically index-based personality survey. So 160, 170 words. They just click the words that they're attracted to in there, and it's designed to show a couple dots that I'm trained to read, that I can see who they are. And we used DISC for a long time, and what I found with DISC is it's very manipulatable. I can manipulate it very easily. If you gave me a job description right now and gave me the DISC assessment, I would create the profile that you would be looking for that job role, just knowing what I know.
That's good to know.
Yeah, and I'd say even in the indexed stuff, if you're interviewing somebody, I always ask, have you ever taken a personality survey like this before? And what did you think about it? So when I was using the DISC, I would always say, have you ever taken a DISC assessment before? And if they say yes, I say, can you send me the one? Do you have a copy of it? Can you send me that one? And instead of using the one that I have, because what I realized after a few years is what I'm getting is not matching what's on this piece of paper. So I think it's more aspirational the way they're answering the questions than it is actually like deep inside of them. So that's my like ace in the hole. I absolutely love it. It's a bit expensive for smaller companies, but I mean the cost of a bad hire is like 15 times their salary. So you can do the math of what a bad hire cost you.
Yes, for sure. So you're finding somebody. I mean, I love how you're laying these things out. Even in the job description, you're telling them up front, this is it. And so hopefully they don't apply if they're not the right fit, right? So you're looking for somebody, let's say that's, in the sales position, but let's say they meet all the core values, but they don't have any sales experience. Is that still somebody you're going to interview?
In a sales role, probably not. Unless they're like super hungry, they want to learn. I'd like them to have some experience in sales from my experience, depending on where you're using them. Like we're very like belly to belly or phone sales. Like I want somebody that I don't necessarily have to train the ins and outs of building rapport and stuff like that. If it was
maybe not sales specifically, but yeah, it could be
office admin, assistants, corporate, marketing, like marketing and sales, probably somebody who I want some background in there. But I can use an example of my operations director in my company right now. She started hanging bandit signs for us. We were paying her like $1.50 a bandit sign on Craigslist that my COO hired. We rarely do these, by the way. This is not something that's like a strategy that I absolutely love, but we were testing a model in a new market, and because the other stuff that we typically do wasn't working. And she was so hungry and so motivated. She started doing that. Then she started doing like quality assurance checks inside of our CRM, like calling people back, checking on them, doing follow-up. Then she started doing some lead intake, answering phones, building rapport. And then she just kept moving up in the organization. She has no operational, and so she became our transaction coordinator. She's running 150 deals through our company a year, talking to sellers, talking to buyers, talking to title companies, lenders, dealing with it all. And then she became the operations director and runs a team of like 3 people now. So, I mean, and what she did before that was like marketing, like liquor promotion down in Miami for bars and restaurants and stuff like that, like running a team for that, for marketing. So she had no background in this, and we just trained her up on it. And so my marketing director didn't know anything about real estate. She was doing marketing for herself. She's run a couple of companies, but was selling t-shirts on Facebook and running ads for that stuff and e-commerce, and kind of moved her over to something brand new, totally different. So I think that you can train a lot of that stuff. So I'd rather have somebody who's a personality profile fit and a culture fit than I would somebody who has an extensive resume from my experience.
For sure. Yeah. And how are you attracting talent? You may say, I'll pay you, it may be a nice salary, but how do you really attract them in?
Well, I think you have to put yourself in their shoes. Like, what do they want, and what's going on? Like right now, I think obviously we're in the middle of this like we're recording this around the pandemic, this coronavirus stuff. So a lot of people are out of work. So this is a great time to be recruiting. I tell you what, we have ads up all over the place, even if we're not hiring right now. So I'm building a database of people who are looking. And so you got to put yourselves in their shoes. What I noticed is, let's call it 6 months ago, we're hiring people. You have people that are applying who are probably in a stable job that they like, okay, but they're looking for another job, something that will like pull them out of what they're doing right now. They're not actually looking. If somebody doesn't have a job when the job market is like 3% unemployment and they don't have a job, there might be a reason why they don't have a job. And so what I had to start thinking about, what are these people thinking about? What are they doing? Why are they looking? Why are they at work on Indeed, like applying for our job? There's something there that they don't like. They're looking for something bigger, the future, things like that. So what I've noticed is if you want all-star A player talent, what you need to do is you need to make sure that there's a path of progress and growth for them. So a lot of times what happens when you have rock star people, they see a ceiling and they hit it, and that's when they start looking for other things. They just don't see a future, or they're not happy. So what I spend my time, I don't spend my time asking about, I talk to some of the people that we hire now, and I spend more of my time about what does the future look like for you? What are some of your goals? Like, where do you want to be years from now? Where do you see yourself in this company? Like, I read them our 3-year picture and our 10-year vision, and I see like, well, how does that sound to you? Does it sound like something you can get behind? And if they're like, oh my gosh, I love this. Like, this is so exciting. I want to be in a company that's growing like that. Then that's somebody that I can kind of pull in and just kind of show the vision and where we're going. And that should get them excited. But if I read a 3-year vision that's like, hey, we have a corporate office in Nashville and we do an annual retreat. We're doing 500 deals a year. We can buy anything because we have unlimited funding. Like all the stuff the visionary stuff that I've created for this 3-year picture. If they're like, I don't like the sound of that, then they're weeding themselves out. So I think you really attract them. And I forget the stat, but it's something like 70% of the people that are out in the workforce right now would rather have a new boss than a pay raise. So if you can think about that,
I believe that.
Like, think about that. Can you imagine that? Like there's more people out there that would rather have a new boss, a new job and a new boss than a pay raise. So it's not all about money. We always think it's all about money. You got to find out what it's about for them. And sometimes job titles, sometimes certifications, experience, being able to come to some of our mastermind meetings and teach and coach and do that stuff. Like, that's why my staff loves it. I don't think any of them are going to leave because they absolutely love what they're plugged into. And so I think you got to figure that out. Figure out what they want, what they need, and then does it align with you? Like right now, I'm interviewing a COO for the 7-figure flipping company, and I'm realizing that he wants a lot of money. And so my conversation has to go to a place of, hey, what can I offer that if that doesn't work, like what does it look like? How do we get there? Let's work together to figure out how this works for both of us. And if you're the right fit, then we're going to find a way, and you're going to see the future. 2-3 years from now, you're not going to be worrying about that because you're going to be making a lot more money than you're asking for right now. So you got to find that happy medium. It's a sale and negotiation process. Everything.
For sure. Where do you find them?
Where do I find people?
Right.
We're like 100% on Indeed right now. It's just kind of where we are. The other thing that we do is we ask other people that we work with or that work for us if they have any referrals or recommendations or people that they know. An interesting thing that we just kind of started doing is, if you're having a conversation, and you probably have brought people on that raise a lot of money, you talk about raising capital, and when people ask you what you do, what do you say? Like, what is your line? If we're recruiting and hiring, I say, well, I like to say I'm a real estate day trader. And usually they say, what does that mean? And then I kind of take it to wherever I want to go. And I might say, well, I run a wholesaling operation that does high volume. We do about a house a day. And, we're a fun, small organization that's looking to grow. We've been doubling year over year. We'll do $3.5 million in, gross profit this year. Really exciting stuff. You know anybody who would be interested in working for a company like that? And obviously I'm talking to somebody and they might be like, you know what? I do know somebody who would love to do something like that. And the same thing, you can shift it to money. You can say, hey, we make, lucrative real estate investment returns for our partners and investors. And we do, like, if you're in syndication, we do syndication deals all across the country. Do you know anybody who would be interested in investing in something like that? And so however you could do the same thing for hiring, which is something that was like a big aha for us a few months ago. So now we're building a Rolodex and a list of those people too, of just referrals and recommendations. And anytime we're looking for somebody, you're always hiring. You should always be looking and always be building a bench, because you never know. I've had people quit and I'm like, what? They seem to be the happiest people in the world. Something came up, they left, and we had to fill that role really fast. So I'd much rather have a database full of people. So we're always hiring. I mean, if you're one of my staff members is listening to this right now, they could go on Indeed and find an ad for their job role right now. I'm just gonna say it. Like, they know that, and so they shouldn't be surprised.
So let's get into a little bit of the tech that you've used also to reduce the human workload, like you talked about initially, while we just have a few minutes left. So tell us a little bit about those systems, how you've, obviously to do 200 deals or plus a year, 15 people, I mean, you've got to have some systems there, right? So what are some other things or technology or things you put in place? Okay, now you've built the team, you've got the people in place, you've trained them. What are we using on a daily basis to make all this happen?
Yeah, we use a lot. I mean, I've created a slide on a presentation. I think it had like 100 logos. I just took all the logos. I took the credit card and I put all the logos. And that's I would say one of the biggest needle movers for us is like an operational software. So like tracking to-do lists and stuff. A lot of people use like Slack and there's a ton of them. There's different CRMs. We use Asana for our back-end operations, and that's been a game changer for us. I use it in both companies, seven-figure flipping company and Blackjack. And that's something where it's just operations management, like to-do lists, check off. You can make calendars. You can do all kinds of stuff in there. That's been a big game changer for us. And we also build out like the process and system inside Lucidchart. So we build out our processes, and then we have a training, like we can basically go through and train somebody on that process where I should be able to plug somebody in and say, this from contract to close, this is the operation. You do this, then this, then this, then this. And we go deep into those processes.
What is that called again?
Lucidchart is what we use. It's just something that you can like make squares and triangles and meetings and things like that. It's a workflow diagram basically.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's hundreds of them. There's a couple that I really like that is probably valuable for your listeners. One is a Google Chrome plugin called BombBomb. So I don't know if you've ever used it, but you can make a quick video and send it in an email. And probably my biggest hack on there though is people will still think that it's automated, but it says 2-minute video, 3-minute video. So when you get the email, how long it is. You can see if people opened it or watched the video. But what I do is I hold up my iPad with a little whiteboard and I put their name on it. So they know that I'm talking directly to them. And I also put their name in the subject line. So that way at first they think it's automated, but some of my high-end clients, high-end mastermind members, when I want to get in touch with them, they get a ton of emails. I put it right there and I'm like, hey, I'm talking to you, man. You haven't RSVP'd to the event. I need you to RSVP. And so that's something that I use that I think would get a great response from money lenders, from different people. It's real quick. You can just embed it in the email. I love it.
Love that. I've used BombBomb and I've heard that before, but nobody's ever brought it up on the show before as far as the holding up the sign saying their name. I love that. So they know it's personalized. So, what are some tips? Like I said, just a few more minutes, but just tips on leading a team like that, so they feel engaged and they want to stick around. They want to stay.
Yeah. So there's leadership and there's management, and you got to find a balance between the two. Most people are just over-managed and under-led. And we had a trainer come in to talk about leadership and management. And what he said was 90% of the people out there in the world are thinking about the past and the present. And the other 10% are like us, the visionaries, the entrepreneurs, the drivers. They're thinking about the future and sometimes in the present. So what you have to do is realize who's on your team and what they are. And if you know their personalities and you know what is it, if somebody is a really high, for me, a B in Culture Index or a high I in DISC, I know that when I call them, I can't get straight to business like I want to. I got to talk to them and have a conversation with them. And they need 5 minutes of me talking about their cat or their dog or their day or their kids or what's going on to make them feel good. And I do that. You got to kind of make sure that you understand your people and know your people. So I think that leadership side of things and management side of things, you have to balance those two. And if you don't have a COO, I have a COO that runs the company day to day, so I don't have to. So I get to do almost all leadership and visionary stuff like I like to do. But if you don't have that, you got to balance it. Now, from the leadership aspect, you have to think about how you act and what you say. And what you say matters a lot, especially to your staff. So if you say like, I'm sorry, I can, we can do it, good job, you're doing great. Like those kind of things are like leadership words, right? Not, we tried that already, it doesn't work. You want to encourage them to bring ideas. So really think about what you're saying, especially in a time like right now. Like I've got to cast vision and future and not show them that I'm maybe a little bit nervous or maybe a little bit concerned, but I see opportunity. I see all these things. And I have to be open and honest and in front of them. and know when they need me to lead them and they need me out front, because a lot of the people are not high D's like we are, and not really driven, and they're thinking about the past and the present, and they're concerned. And so if you know that, you know the lens that they're looking through, and you can start sharing that message with them. I think it's really important to think about what you say, how you act, and how they see you, because a lot of times you think it's just like you're just going to be you around everybody, and that's fine. Sometimes if they see you that you're adapting to them and making them feel good and understanding their struggles and their issues and their concerns, then it's going to allow you to be their leader, for them to have somebody to look up to, and just pour into your people. Like really think about them, have them in mind all the time. That's what's the important part. You really, really, really have to do that.
Great advice, Bill. So what's a way you've recently improved your business that we could apply to ours that we hadn't talked about?
That's a great question. A recent way that I've improved my business. So, I think we're in a time of efficiency right now. So we're really thinking about what, we're coming out of, some people may have come out of the office space into their houses. Some people are seeing that they have to go virtual. We're 100% virtual. So I was actually driven out of my office into a rental office because I have a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and 2-year-old that are running around my house going crazy. So I can't do my interviews like this. So I think we're finding new ways to be efficient. So one thing that we did was we really started to say, like, do we have to do this in everything that we do? So for us, we would go do belly-to-belly sales. In-home sales was what we thought we had to do, except like 6 months ago, we challenged that. We said, why does it have to be that way? Do we have to do that? How much windshield time are our sales reps taking? Like they're not making offers during that time. Could we do this over the phone? And so we shifted to a phone model like 6 months ago. Fortunately, we did that. And all this happened, we had a leg up on our competition primarily. So I would say not necessarily just like coming out of the field and going on the phone, but how can you be more efficient? Like, where are you wasting your time? And we were wasting our time with our sales reps. We're just like driving 30 minutes to an appointment, getting shut down, driving back. It just wasn't efficient. We were wasting so much manpower and human effort. So we continue to do that to try to say, I don't know, maybe it's the military in me and I really hate it. Like, how can you do more with less? I think about, because that's always what they said. Like, how can you just be more trained and more qualified with less flight time so we don't have to pay so much for you guys? And we would always hate that. But now as an owner, I'm really trying to figure out, and all of us, how can we be more efficient? So that's one way that we've been more efficient. You can, change that and adapt it to your business. But I think it's always asking, like, why do we do this? Why do we do it that way? Well, it's because we've always done it that way. Well, that doesn't matter. Like, right. Challenge the status quo, challenge the way that you're doing things, and make changes.
What's the number one thing that's contributed to your success?
The number one thing that's mentors. Like, that's it, hands down, period. Everything that I'm talking about right now was given to me or shown to me by somebody else. I will maintain probably my entire real estate career that I don't have an original thought inside of the real estate business. I have just taken my business as a complete Frankenstein of so many other people that have, allowed me to come in and see what they're doing, have mentored me, have given me their documents, their systems, their process. And all I do is try to make it better. Like, I pull it into my business and I say, how can I use this and be better than them? How can I use what they're using and make it a little better? So I think just the people that have gotten me here, it hasn't been a very long time, and we've grown really fast. And it's all because of the people that have shared their time and their knowledge with me.
How did you meet those people?
I paid a lot of money.
Okay.
So I joined a mastermind group. It was one of the early things that I did. I had a library card, and I didn't even buy books. I was so cheap. The government has probably spent $2 million on my education. My test pilot school is $1.6 million US dollars. I did it in England. It was £1 million. And they used me as a test pilot for 2 years, and then kind of threw me away down to the training command. And it's just incredible to see that I would put so much money in my formal education, but none of my money in my self-education. So I'm a big proponent of self-education. And at that time, I was still too cheap to write a check like that. I mean, I joined a group, the power in there, I went from doing one deal a year to doing, we did 67 deals the first year, and then I did 135, then 187. And we've been consistently doing somewhere around 175 to 200 a year for the past, 2 years after that. So obviously it was worth it. It's not for everybody, but I think you just got to get around people who will challenge you. Obviously, you listen to this podcast, you hear huge entrepreneurs, big thinkers come on here every day. He does this every day, Whitney does it every day. And they come on and they share this stuff. And you listen to this and you say, if I can do it, you can do it. And that's what I learned. Like, there's no glass ceiling above my head, shatter it. There's people out there making millions of dollars a year. Why can't it be me? So why not invest in myself instead of, like being afraid to invest in myself. Like who better to invest in than ourselves, right? So that was it. I got around those people that way. I think there's probably some other ways, but go to an event, go to, don't be afraid to buy a course or listen to this podcast every single day, but find somebody that you get attracted to and follow them. Like if Whitney's your guy, obviously, like follow him, like get all of his stuff, devour it, listen to every podcast. Like what can you learn? And then go take action. So that's it.
How do you like to give back?
Oh man, a lot of ways. I love to give back in a lot of ways. Operation Underground Railroad is near and dear to my heart. It's a human trafficking organization where they have Navy SEALs, previous CIA, lots of different operators that are kicking down doors, not just awareness. So I'm the Tennessee director for that organization. I was able to see them in action at one of the events that we run. We raised a bunch of money for them. I got to know them a little bit more. And then I knocked on their door for about 6 months and they gave me the state of Tennessee. So I get to do that. We raise money for them. My goal is to raise $1 million a year for them coming up in, I don't know, 2 years, hopefully 250 this year, and then maybe $1 million the year after that and on. I've seen a mentor of mine raise $1 million at one event for them. So I wanted to figure out how to do that. And then we just renovated a house and gave it away to a Gold Star family. So that's, I love the military. I love veterans. I love figuring out how we can do more for that. So that's obviously a couple charities that are near and dear to my heart. But I think the biggest thing is giving away our time, figuring out how we can make an impact on others too. And so so many people have done so much for me that all I want to do is figure out how I can pass that information along, just like our forefathers, grandfathers, all the people that are out there that are passing along the knowledge to other people that hopefully take it and run with it. So.
Incredible, Bill. Grateful for your time. You've just shared so much great information with us. I know the listeners I hope they're thinking like you're thinking now and thinking, okay, I can hire people. I can make this happen. I can scale. I can put systems in place. It's not outside of my reach. And you've laid out so many great actionable steps for them to take. I'm grateful for that. How can they get in touch with you and learn more about you?
Okay. Before I answer that question, 30-second story. When my mentor said I need to hire somebody, I said, I can't, I'm afraid, I won't, I don't want to put food on anybody else's table. I'm scared. I have like 40 people that work for me in 2 different companies right now. So if I can do it, you can do it. Trust me. It's that first one is you got to do it. And then after that, it becomes, you get a little bit addicted to it. I'll tell you that. So you guys can find me at sevenfigureflipping.com. That's kind of where I hang out. Obviously, 7-Figure Flipping Podcast. I definitely don't do a show every day. It's absolutely insane. It's amazing what you do. This is really, really cool. I had no idea that you were doing a show a day. So impressive.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Syndication Show, brought to you by LifeBridge Capital. LifeBridge Capital works with investors nationwide to invest in real estate, while also donating 50% of its profits to assist parents who are committing to adoption. LifeBridge Capital, making a difference, one investor and one child at a time. Connect online at www.lifebridgecapital.com for free material and videos to further your success.